Hi friends! I'm so excited you're here today because I'm going to be talking about all the books I read in July. July was another awesome reading month for me, but I'm on a bit of a time crunch when I'm filming this. I'm in between jobs today, so I have to go into my second job in a little bit, and I just wanted to film this very quickly, so I'm not going to be super in depth with the books. I say that now. Hopefully that's how it goes. I did end up doing 3 vlogs in the month of July. I will link them all down below. Starting off with some coming of age horror. I read Wasp and the Ice Cream by Tim McGregor. This is a coming of age story. I would say it's more quiet horror if it is horror. There are some elements of it in there, but it's mostly small town, growing up in a small town, and how complicated that is. Coming of age, I guess, in a small town. That's what I really liked about this story. It kind of captured those complexities of, I don't know, interactions with different people in the town who have opinions about other people in the town. I'm trying to be very vague here because I gave it 4 stars. I did take off a star because I wasn't entirely sure about the motives, and like, I guess you don't need it, but I think it would have made a little bit more sense in this one, if that makes any sense. But yeah, if you like coming of age horror, or if you just like this cover, because I love the cover, definitely worth checking out. Then I ended up reading Boy's Life by Robert R. McCammon. This is my friend Kelsey from Simon Slasher's favorite book of all time. I know she doesn't categorize it as horror, but again, I think it has horror elements in it. It is more of a quiet horror, slow burn mystery aspect to it. And I did really enjoy this one, but it definitely dragged a bit. This is a long book. I did the audio for it. I really liked the audio a lot. And there is a great scene in this that I think McCammon actually does these particular scenes really well, because I just read another McCammon book and he captures some really great stuff in it with his writing. I enjoyed the writing. I thought that the story was good, but it was very slow burn. So I ended up giving it 4 stars. And then my favorite book from that coming of age vlog was The Disappearance at Devil's Rock by Paul Tremblay. So this was written after Head Full of Ghost, before Cabin, and I absolutely love it so much. Oh my gosh. So this starts out as I feel like a small story, and then it gets bigger. It's definitely more emotional horror. It's like that, I don't want to say, I hate saying this term, but like elevated horror, right? So this is about a mom. You get her point of view of being told her 12-year-old son went missing when he was with his friends at this park. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say about this. You get multiple POVs in this. There's some interesting stuff done with some of my favorite tropes. Yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but the ending of this, I was literally crying, and I was just like shocked, honestly. I was like, how dare he do this? Mike Flanagan really needs to do an adaptation of Paul Tremblay's work. I think this one would be perfect for it, or even Head Full of Ghost, I think could be done too, or even Paul Bear's Club, which is like one of my all-time favorite Paul Tremblay books. But yeah, I'm glad I finally read this. I never hear people talk about it, and it was really good. I also listened to This Delicious Death by Kayla Cottingham. This is a YA horror book about these girls who are like zombies, or they're like, it's not called that, but it's like a zombie book in a world where there is like this virus. It has like pandemic vibes to it because of this virus, and it is like a very it's very summery. It takes place at a music festival in the desert, and there's a bit of a mystery in this that I really liked. and overall I did really enjoy it and gave it 4 stars. And the book I did not like was The Traveling Vampire Show by Richard Lehman. I did not like this book at all. I would say it started out really good. I think this has a really cool setup, and the atmosphere is great. It's like small town. There's this traveling vampire show these boys find a flyer for, and then it just goes downhill. It's so convoluted. Like, I don't know how many times these kids like switched houses. Like, oh, we're gonna go to so-and-so's house now. Oh, we're gonna go over here now. Oh, we're gonna go over here now. It was like, what is even happening? Are you guys gonna go to the show? Like, what is going on? But yeah, it was a mess. It was a hot mess. The ending is kind of a hot mess. I was just like, what the heck? You don't even get answers about something in this that happens that was a big part of the plot. And I was just like, what? Why? Why don't we have any answers? Why do you keep just talking about boobs? Like, come on. So yeah, I had to give it a 1. Oh, I said 1.5 star. So yeah, I think I'm more towards a 1 star though, honestly. But I will try another Lehman. I will, but I'm not going to do audio for it. No, I'm just going to do an ebook. And for the Pyramid Book Club, which is read by Lexi from Books with Lexi, Michelle from Michelle's Library, and Monica from A Little Bit of Monica, I ended up reading The Scourge Between Stars by Nessa Brown. This is a horror sci-fi novella, and I had a lot of fun with this. This is a very quick listen. I listened to it on Scribd, and I had a blast with it. It was very gory. If you like Alien, you'll definitely like this one. It was a fun time, and I gave it 4 stars. Now we are in Summerween. This is Summerween. I had a blast for Summerween. I did not get to like be on sprints or anything like that, but I had fun like being in the chat because I did work a lot. I worked a lot this July, and I'm working a lot this August, so it's been rough. I'm just glad I'm able to keep reading, and yeah, I had a blast with it. I started off with The Whispers by Ashley Audrade. If you guys don't know, The Push is one of my favorite thrillers. It's a very dark thriller for sure. This is pretty dark, but I'd say this, so I read this right after Traveling Vampire Show. And I talk about this in my Summerween vlog. I was like just kind of sick of hearing about sex. This is a lot of housewives talking about sex. So I was just like, really? Are we doing this now again? Here we go. So yeah, that got very repetitive in this. And it does go into some darker stuff. So definitely look up content warnings about it. But I ended up giving it 3 stars. I did enjoy it, but I felt like it was very repetitive. And then I ended up reading Deep Trouble by R.L. Stine. I read this for Summerween, but I also read this for my friend Kelly from Kelly Hooked on Books book club. She's doing the Summer of Stine this summer, and this is one of the picks, and I had it and I was like, okay, I don't remember reading this when I was 12, so let me read it now. And I had a blast with it. It was so much fun. The cover is kind of misleading in it, but I still had a blast with it, and I gave it 4 stars. Then for another thriller, I ended up reading Saving Noah by Lucinda Berry. This is an insanely dark thriller, and it's about a subject matter that I have never even come close to reading a book about. So I felt like it was a very brave book to write and an interesting book, and I did not see the freaking twist in this book coming at all. I didn't see it, so I had to give it 4.5, and I'll round up to 5 on Goodreads. Definitely worth checking out. I believe it's on KU. A lot of Lucinda Berry's stuff is on KU. Then I read The Sundial by Shirley Jackson. I had a blast with this one. If you watched my Summerween vlog, I thought this was so funny. I'm like laughing thinking about some of the things in this. Without giving too much away, because it is kind of short, it kind of reminds me of that Joyce book, is it The Dubliners? like where everybody comes back and they're after a funeral and they're just like drinking and talking. That's how this starts off, in a kind of rundown gothic like mansion. The atmosphere is great. It also takes place during summer, or the vision happens during summer, about a sundial in the back. Basically a ghost comes to one of these people and tells them the world is ending, and it's just so good. It was so funny, like the humor in this. I was not expecting to be laughing out loud when I picked this up, because it is a cult book ultimately, but I just had a blast with it, and I gave it 4 stars. And then another thriller I ended up reading was also for the Pyramid Book Club, was No One's Home by D.M. Pulley. This was a very boring thriller for me, honestly. Like, I don't know, I just blinked. This is like a back and forth 3 different timeline situation happening in this thriller of these people moving into like a very old decrepit house, and then like as stuff is revealed, I was kind of like, this has been done, well, it's been done before for sure, but I was like, also it's not great. So I ended up giving this one a 2-star. It was kind of rough to finish this one. And the last book I ended up reading for Summerween was A Touch the Night by Max Booth III. This is my friend Kelsey from Simon Sasher's book club pick for July, and I loved it. It was tough to get into, I will say, but then once you're into a flow of it, it reads really easily. I had to read this one physically because there's no audio for it. I do have my notes here for the live discussion, so I'm super excited for that, to talk about this with other people, because I feel like it's a very unique story while pulling from really popular things like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it says that on the back. It says Stranger Things meets Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think it's more Texas Chainsaw Massacre than Stranger Things, but basically we get POVs from the moms of these missing boys who are 12 years old, who are abducted by what they think are policemen, and I believe this came out in 2020, and I'm kind of glad I didn't read it in 2020, because I feel like I would have been very angry. Not at the book or anything, but it just like, you know, given me all worked up or whatever again. But yeah, this was very interesting. My only thing is the ending. It felt like it really just ended, but I've been thinking about the ending recently, and I get it. I think I get why it ended that way. So I'm bumping it up to a 5-star read, because also I'm still thinking about some stuff that happened in this book, and I'm like, what? It's just really stuck with me, I guess, throughout the month, because I did read this for Summerween, which happened towards the beginning of the month. And yeah, it was a 4.5 when I read it, but I think it's a 5-star for sure now. And the next set of books that I ended up reading, I'm going to go through kind of quickly because they were just for my ARC reading vlog, which I'll link down below. Starting off with Silver Nitrate by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I ended up giving this one 4 stars, and I talk about it a kind of a lot in the vlog, why I went with 4 stars for this one. And then Mr. Magic by Kirsten White. Also with this one, my rating has changed a bit from when I read it in the vlog. Funny how that happens. I've been thinking about this one too, and I think I'm going to lower it. I gave it a 3.5. I think I'm going to lower it to a 3 because I just have too many questions. And then my favorite freaking read of the month, I think. Honestly, like, I had so much fun with this book, and then I couldn't stop talking about it. I talked to Alex about this book, like, so randomly. Well, he thought it was random, but it actually wasn't random, because somebody was talking about OJ, and I was like, oh, blah, 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 in this book. And he was like, okay. And he's like, oh, you started talking to me because of this OJ thing that was on TV. Anyway, Dead 11 is amazing. Just check it out. I don't think you need to know anything about it. If you like David Lynch, you'll definitely love this book. If you like found footage, you'll like this book. And it is a mystery. It's kind of a slow burn mystery with, I want to say, like a sharp turn horror scenes in it, if that makes any sense. It's like, okay, like, we're doing this mystery. There's a bit of found footage. There's an interview here. There's a tape here. Da-da-da-da. Oh, this is a full-on horror scene happening. I'm scared right now. Like, what is going on? The tension is done so well, and it's fabulous. Mwah, mwah. 5 stars. And I read Fever House by Keith Rawson. This one I gave 3 stars. And again, I go into a lot of more detail in my blog. This one, the ending, I feel like this was definitely going to be like a really high rating until that ending. And it just didn't do it for me. And then They Lurk by Ronald Malfi. This is a collection of novellas, and in my vlog I couldn't think of my favorite one, which is the last one, it's called Fierce. And yeah, I loved that one, so I ended up giving this collection 4 stars. And then getting into Christmas Evil in July, a readathon that I co-hosted. I ended up reading a couple camp books. I read The Horror at Camp, Jellyjam. I don't know why I forgot that. And I gave this one 4 stars. Honestly, this one too, the cover is very misleading, and and I was not expecting the actual Horror at Camp Jellyjam. I actually had a lot of fun with this one, and I gave it 4 stars. And The Counselors, who I forget this author, but this is a YA thriller about camp counselors, and this is one of those books that's like now, then, every chapter, and I was like, I don't need that every chapter. It was very boring. It was tough to finish, and I feel like the reveal and the twist or whatever wasn't even that good. So I ended up giving this one 2 stars. And then I ended up reading What Lies Between Us by John Mars. I listened to this one through KU, and I was disturbed. This book is so freaking dark. If you like dark thrillers, definitely check this one out. This was my first John Mars book too, and I was like, dang. I was bummed out actually listening to this. So it took me a minute to get through because it kept cutting it off to like cut on a happy true crime podcast. Now, like, to listen to podcasts, because I was like, this is so depressing and dark and messed up. So this is, I don't even know what to say about it, because I don't know what would give stuff away. I don't even know what the synopsis says. Let's just say this is about some family history between a mother and a daughter and what happens. And it's very extreme, not extreme horror, but it like goes so dark. I was like, no. And the ending, I was like shocked about the ending, but also I needed like a little bit more from the ending. Usually I don't. It's okay. But yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, I get it. I get John Mars now. So definitely will be reading more thrillers from this author, and I gave this one 4 stars. Then I listened to A Stir of Echoes by Richard Matheson. So I just listened to this one like on a whim. I was on Sprint and somebody else was listening to it, and I was like, let me see if Libby has it, and they did. So I listened to it. It's a very quick listen. I'm not a huge Matheson fan. I don't think, because I don't like Hell House. I like the movie Hell House. I just didn't like the book. I love Stir of Echoes with Kevin Bacon. I did not like the Stir of Echoes that much. It was okay. It was okay. It doesn't stray super far, but I will say it does feel like Matheson really hates women. Like in his books, like Hell House and Stir of Echoes, I feel like women are like written so poorly. And I get it, it's written in the 50s, but still, like, he had issues, I think, with women for sure. But I'm leaning more towards like a 2.5, round up to 3 for Goodreads for Stir of Echoes. And I read Snow Shark by Brian Barry on KU. I had a lot of fun with this one. This one was just like fun. It did get a little boring sometimes, I feel like, because this is more of like a government thing, like I think it takes place in Russia. Well, yeah, somewhere very cold, where there's a lot of snow in the 80s, and it's like government stuff happening in it. Government stuff, I guess like army stuff happening in it. I loved the kills. I thought they were super fun. They had like that one kill where you're like, you know, you have to use the bathroom like in the woods. That is the scariest thing to me. Oh my gosh. But he did it with Snow Shark, and I was just like, that is my worst nightmare. I'm scared right now. I could never go out to the bathroom in the woods now if it was snowing, because I'd be scared of a shark. It doesn't make any sense, but it does make sense because a shark could technically live in that, right? I'm excited to read more from Brian Barry, though. I think it was a great palette cleanser, and I had a lot of fun with it, and I'm giving it 3 stars. I ended up listening to Death in Her Hands by Ottessa Moshfegh, and I listened to this in like an afternoon. I could not stop listening to it. The main character was so crazy. This is another great example, I feel like, of the unhinged, kind of unreliable narrator, female character that Moshfegh is kind of known for. And oh my gosh, I was just like, this woman is so judgmental. Like, I cannot stop listening though. Like, she's giving the tea about everybody she just sees. She like makes these assumptions about, and I'm like, ma'am, like, that is awful. You're an awful person, but I cannot get enough of you. So I love this one. Definitely look up some content warnings about this one, especially towards the end. Something happens in it, and I was like, oh no, I have to take a star off for that, because I did not like that at all. I've never given this author 5 stars either, so it's no big deal. They've usually been like a solid 4. But yeah, Death in Her Hands, 4 stars. I read some Smut books, as one does. I read Satan, A Christmas Monster Romance by Layla Faye, and I also read Jack, A Halloween Monster Erotica by the same author. Aren't these covers so fun? I honestly did not like Satan that much. I was like, this is kind of long, I'm kind of zoning out, I'm kind of bored. Also, like, I think they do Santa a little dirty in this one, okay? They're a little too critical of Santa, okay? But, oh yeah, and then like there's a thing with food in this, and there is a warning, but I was just like, why? Why does that even have to happen? You don't have to do that. And why did I just keep reading it when I saw the warning? I don't know. I don't know why I did that. I'll never get it out of my head. So I think I'm giving this one 2 stars. But Jack, I did like Jack. It did almost ruin a certain food for me, but it didn't. But it really came close to. But yeah, I like Jack a lot more. Jack was more evil than Satan. Let's just say that. And I liked it. I was like, okay, Jack is cool. So I gave Jack 3 stars. Then for my book club, where I was joined by Kelsey and Andrew, the Krung Bunch, we read Queen of Teeth by Haley Piper, and I will link the live show down below. It was such a great discussion, and I just had so much fun, and thank you to everybody who participated and showed up for the live show. I think a lot of stuff in this book actually went over my head. I only pointed out certain things or made notes about certain things, and then as like we started discussing it, it was like, oh my gosh, there's like a million other levels to this book and to the story that I didn't even think about while reading it. I did do the audio for this. It is available on Script, and I highly suggest the audio. It was fantastic. And yeah, it's really funny. It's really short. It does get a little bit heavy with sci-fi, but not too much. And the ending turned into something I was not expecting at all with the story. So I ended up giving it 4.5 stars, but I think I'm going to it's definitely a 5-star for me the more I think about it, because like I honestly have goosebumps right now, like thinking about like all the layers to this story. And honestly, like, this is why I read horror, is books like Queen of Teeth, because horror does so much while being entertaining and interesting and having great characters. It's also about having like these important conversations too. So yeah, definitely worth it. It also goes into one of my favorite subgenres, so you guys know I loved it. But yeah, I'm super excited for the next book that I'm reading for the Reaper Book Club. And yeah, I'm just so excited that like I got to read this with a bunch of people and have a good conversation about it. Like, it was fantastic. This is great. I highly suggest it. And then I read Universal Harvester by John Darnell. I don't know why I just sang that. I don't know. It is, I'm getting a little loopy here. I gave this 1 star. It started out very promising and good. It's like found footage stuff, 90s stuff in a video rental store, but it just missed the mark for me. It was definitely more lit fic too. And then I read The Odds by Jeff Strand. I read this for Elizabeth's book club, the Midnight Book Society, and this was a fun little thriller. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. And then very quickly, I did have one DNF, The Uninvited by John Ferris. I might pick it back up. It was kind of a soft DNF, but I was very, very bored. I made it to page 100 and I was like, I cannot do this anymore because I'm so bored. But there it is. I tried to do that very quickly for you guys. Let me know what some of your favorite reads were in July, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Bye.